Hey there, folks. How we doing? This is Dave Cubby coming to you from a rather smoky South Dakota. I hate to be the bearer of bad news for folks back in New Jersey, but I got a little bit more of that Canadian wildfire smoke coming your way, I think. It's been pretty smoky here the last couple days. I mean, not too bad, but then again, the air quality out here is far superior to that in New Jersey. But if you got those respiratory illnesses, be on the lookout. Try to take care of yourselves. Hopefully, it won't affect you too much. So what we're here to talk about tonight is this right over here, this newly minted propaganda piece by Joe Malanconico of NorthJersey.com, basically trying to create a success out of the first 100 days of New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin's takeover of the Paterson Police Department. Um, this article's getting panned on social media. It's an absolute joke that they're representing any kind of success just because they've managed to actually stop people from selling drugs out in the open on Broadway and Patterson. Um, Interestingly enough, it also marks 100 days that Matthew Platkin has completely ignored my phone calls and my requests for an interview. I have firsthand knowledge of extreme police brutality, public corruption, and judicial corruption in Passaic County. I've sent him detailed documents, dozens of emails requesting interviews. And I mean, you can see him on our YouTube page at Silk City Media Group. They were giving me the runaround. They tried to direct me to dead end departments. They were clearly screening my calls on a number of occasions to avoid talking to me. And basically, Platkin, at this point, it can be inferred that Platkin is ordering them not to respond. If they're doing this on their own, Platkin needs to have them arrested. But I don't see that as the case. Um, and I mean, from these little, very controlled statements and these, manicured press conferences. I mean, it looks like Matt Platkin is really just trying to boost his own image. He has no interest in investigating wrongdoing in Passaic County and in the city of Patterson. And this is a cover-up. It's almost clear as day at this point. Malanconico is here trying to put a positive spin on everything. Beginning with all this flowery language about Broadway being cleaned up. I mean, it's not really there. A number of community activists have questioned why there's been no report. There's no report. 100 days in, there's no report saying, here's what the plan is, here's what we've done, here's what we're planning on doing, here's how the $10 million was spent. This article kind of quotes Mason Mayer, president of what is probably the most corrupt union in the world, saying, oh, yeah, well, there's been a huge surge in overtime spending. What else is new? For people who don't know, in November of 2019, I was attacked by the Paterson Police Department, who had invited me down to a Paterson gun store so that I could recover two long rifles that were stolen from me by the Paterson Police Department after my false eviction from my apartment. The eviction is directly connected to Hinchliffe Stadium and all of the stealing going on over there. My landlord at the time, Alma Realty Corp., was trying to build a competing arena behind their property at Center City Mall in Patterson, and one of their officers directly threatened me and then filed an eviction complaint months after I rejected an illegal rent increase that they also tried to saddle me with. So that's where most of that came from. They invited me down there and ambushed me. I didn't walk in and demand anything. The only thing I did say to the store owner, well, not the only thing, obviously there was a conversation, but I said that I was going to call the state police and report the rifles as stolen because, well, there was no explanation for how they got there. And the gun store owner was trying to make me sign a federal firearms transfer form that falsely said that I abandoned the weapons in the apartment, which is total nonsense. I have a police report from the Paterson Police Department that says that they took them over my objections. I never owned a single round of live ammunition for these rifles. They're both historic rifles. They were used in educational programs and living history interpretations. But yeah, still nonetheless, they targeted me over this. But no, I can't get a call back from Matthew Platkin. I mean, I've got a bevy of judges, both municipal and in the Superior Court, who have completely just tried to railroad me through the process. Wouldn't give me pre-indictment hearings. They wouldn't let me talk to a judge during pre-indictment hearings. They eventually forced the matter back to municipal court, even though they were trying to charge me with felonies. Resisting arrest by force is a third-degree felony. I'm entitled to a grand jury indictment on that, but they tried to force it back into municipal court, where their friends like John Segreto and John Miola, who are connected to all sorts of these corrupt individuals in Paterson, could basically just try to gloss over it, deny me probable cause hearings, and more or less railroad me into a conviction. But no, I can't get a call back from the Attorney General's office. I've got pages and pages of documentation of this stuff. Matt Platkin's not interested in seeing it, not interested in talking to me, because obviously this is a sham. It's about protecting Andre Saya's image. It's about protecting Phil Murphy's image. It's about protecting Bill Pascrell's image. And these are three of the most corrupt politicians in the country. Easily the most corrupt politicians in the state of New Jersey. But no investigation. One of the things I really like about this article is he gives these bullet point statistics, which are completely misleading over here. If you check these out, look at this. Yeah, okay. 41% drop in murders. That's a good thing. 41% less people got murdered in Paterson in 2022. But down at the bottom, the last statistic is the dead giveaway. Only a 7.7% drop in overall crime. Now, you consider the fact that crime has risen astronomically in every year that Andre Saya has been mayor. What does a 7% decrease mean now after 2022? Nothing. That's what it means. This is Melanconico basically trying to be very favorable towards these people, trying to cover up whatever's going on down there. And as I alluded to previously, I am fairly certain at this point that Najee Seabrooks was murdered. He was assassinated by the Paterson Police Department, at least select officers that knew what was really going on there. Because in addition to this $10 million that now there's no accounting for from the state budget, Congressman Bill Pascrell was instrumental in getting the Paterson Healing Collective, which Najee Seabrooks was employed with, about $3 million in grant funding through St. Joseph's Hospital. Also another corrupt entity. We'll get into those later. I think it's apparent at this point that what should be investigated by the Attorney General's office is whether Najee Seabrooks knew that certain people were being paid exorbitant salaries, that some of the money was being diverted to illegal overtime payments, possibly to Paterson Police Department, to police officers. That's what I had called them out for when they stole $1 million worth of grant money from the Paterson Library, and was one of the reasons I was attacked. But yeah, I think he knew something. His friends in the Paterson Healing Collective were way too quick to declare it just a tragic police shooting, when for every other shooting in New Jersey, they've marched in the streets and basically declared it, the systemic racism and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden it's their friend, somebody they worked with. Oh, it's a tragic shooting. I mean, your narrative doesn't add up, doesn't match. Now all of a sudden you don't want them looking into this. You're not giving statements. You're not trying to make yourself the activist. It's getting swept under the rug. A lot of stealing down there. I've got plenty of bones to pick with Joe Melanconico. This guy's he's dirty all over. I think he has no interest in being a journalist. He's literally a propagandist for these guys. A couple weeks ago, he wrote an article about my lawsuit that I filed against the state of New Jersey, in which he completely was, glossed over the names of important parties, political players that he regularly reports on, mostly in a positive light, falsely in a positive light, I might add. He discusses how I sued, New Jersey Supreme Court. I don't know if I did sue the New Jersey Supreme Court. I might have. I don't know. I don't know if they should be named as a party or just under the state of New Jersey, which I think is what I did. The Attorney General's Office, Passaic Valley Water Commission, the Paterson Library Board of Trustees, and then he goes, the company that built the Center City Mall in Paterson. That's Alma Realty Group. Why is he withholding their name for the article? So that they don't get tagged in articles that accuse them of corruption. That's why. And the city's largest nonprofit developer, NJCDC. They're both directly named in the complaint. It's not a mystery. The only mystery is why Melanconico didn't include that information in his article. The next paragraph he goes on, he says, Cubby was once a member of the Paterson Historic Preservation Society. False. I'm its founder. Was part of the Friends of Hinchliffe Stadium group. Still am, because they've never actually informed me as to whether or not they've replaced me or not. That group is a scam as well. We'll get into that in a different video. And then he goes on to say his participation in city-based groups has waned in recent years. Well, that's not true. I have emailed Joe Melanconico at least 2 or 3 times since I was attacked by the Paterson Police Department, detailing the corrupt actions of the Passaic County judiciary. He's ignored it. He never contacted me in writing this article, didn't ask for a statement, made no attempt to reach out to me. And more or less, I think here he's trying to paint me as some kind of complainer. He's trying to paint me as somebody who's just trying to sue everybody and blame my problems on them. And I just compare that to other articles he's written about lawsuits that are filed against the city of Paterson. It also concludes by saying the suspension documents said Cubby lives in Waldwick. And I think this is going back to basically what one of my major cornerstones of my complaint was that the Paterson Police Department were trying to force me to leave town so I couldn't run for public office. So now here you have Joe Malanconico sneaking that into there when he knows where I was living. He knows I was living in town. I had to move back home after I was attacked, but that's not by choice. That's not my choice of residence. I am a Paterson resident. I consider myself a Paterson resident in exile. I had been forced out of town by corrupt cops, by corrupt judges, and by corrupt prosecutors. It's a fact. And I mean, Malanconico is kind of just trying to smear over this kind of stuff. And it's not just Malanconico. His colleague at NorthJersey.com, Richard Cowan, has been informed of this stuff in depth. Never covered it. Stopped answering my calls. And he's positively covered NJCDC, Bob Garashi, and Hinchliffe Stadium on a number of occasions. They're playing musical chairs. They're changing who writes the article so they can claim that they didn't know the facts, and then they're trying to hide behind the idea that they're journalists to get away with what's basically furtherance of public corruption. They're an accessory to public corruption. They're not protected by the First Amendment. This is purely commercial speech. They had no interest in discovering the truth here. They conducted no interviews with me. Didn't ask me for a statement. Didn't ask me for a follow up. They just published something that they should have known wasn't true, or was highly misleading. That's it goes back years. I've tried to alert Malanconico to grievous civil rights violations committed by landlords in Paterson. Ignored them. Wouldn't do anything unless the highly intimidated and highly fearful tenants filed a police report, which they did try to do, only to have Jerry Spezial show up and try to convince them to file a class action lawsuit that would have taken years, when all of them would have gotten evicted in the meantime. So first of all, he has no legal training at all. He's not a lawyer. He's barely a cop. Spezial had no business trying to tell those people to file a class action lawsuit when he was the one who was supposed to do his job and file a police report. These people were accusing their landlord of breaking into their apartment and going through their stuff, all sorts of retaliation, and there was a retaliatory eviction that resulted directly from it. Malanconico knew about all of this stuff, never wrote a story. And here he is acting like he doesn't know me, doesn't know who I am, and couldn't. He doesn't say he couldn't contact me, but he didn't try. No attempt to contact me. So I mean, this guy's he's an accessory. That's exactly what he is at this point. And for those who don't know, it is a fact that the Record, which owns Paterson Press and NorthJersey.com, is owned by Gannett Media. Gannett Media is owned by Fortress Investment Group, and Fortress Investment Group owns Nation Star Mortgage, and they own Green Tree Servicing. Two of the biggest fraudsters in the foreclosure crisis, stole tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate off of New Jersey taxpayers, and also received title to the Vistas property behind Hinchliffe Stadium. Part of that property at this point, to my knowledge, was used to build these new apartment complexes at the expense of the Paterson taxpayer and the New Jersey taxpayer at that. So, I mean, they have a direct interest, they have a direct motive for lying, using their newspapers to lie and spread misinformation. And that renders this not a piece of journalism, not protected by the First Amendment, but illegal commercial speech designed to mislead the public for their private benefit. That's a fact. Anyone who wants to, who's been aggrieved by these people in the past, can go after Joe Malanconico and not have to worry about dealing with New York Times versus Sullivan. It doesn't apply. Malanconico doesn't care. He doesn't follow up. He doesn't conduct research, and he only publishes what he thinks needs to be published. And that's usually whatever benefits his friends. That's not journalism. It's not journalism. It goes against all ethics of journalism. There's no argument he can even make to defend himself. He's a malicious person. He does not care about Paterson, and he's doing the bidding of these judges, these attorneys, these corrupt politicians. And I mean, whether or not he's getting money for it is anyone's guess. What is a fact is the Bergen Record for years has been getting money from the state of New Jersey to publish public notices in their paper. They likely would have failed many years ago if it wasn't for that government money coming into their newspaper. So, who from the state legislature is dictating what they can put in the paper? Who knows? I mean, it's an open question for me. So, I'd like to do more of these videos. I'm trying to find a way to keep people more informed. And I know there's a big trend that's been going around on social media for years to try to paint anyone that's criticizing these clowns as negative. So be it. Yeah, okay. I have to be negative because I have to call out what you're doing. I have to expose what you're doing. I have to expose what you're doing to steal from Paterson children, to take away their futures at any opportunity you get. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be positive in that situation. But I can tell you what I am positive of. I'm positive that guys like Andre Saya, Mike Powell, Kathleen Long, Matthew Platkin, all of them will look very good in orange jumpsuits. We can put them there. Every dollar that they've stolen, every dollar they've stolen from your children's educations, from their recreation opportunities, from programs that would have given them job opportunities, we can get it back. We'll get it back from the Charles Florios. We'll get it back from the Alma Realty Groups. We'll get it back from the developers that are just getting 30-year tax abatements to build their $1 billion worth of real estate that they're then going to turn around and use to collect subsidized Section 8 rents and senior citizen payment vouchers. And really, they've built themselves cash cows off of your tax money for free. I mean, whether they even pay the money back will be open to question. I'm sure the New Jersey accounting offices, which have been hiding the fact that New Jersey is bankrupt for years, it will just basically, fudge the numbers and none of that money will ever cross hands the way it's supposed to. So, I mean, I've been trying to get you guys to follow us. We're Silk City Media Group on Facebook, Paterson Historic Preservation Society, David R. Cubby Esquire. Give us a follow. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're likely gonna have to start a GoFundMe at some point. I mean, I'm one guy. I have no money. My livelihood has been destroyed by these people through false ethics investigations. I've had 30 ethics complaints filed against me by judges that I've called corrupt, and they're investigators that are appointed to falsely convict me of being an unethical attorney. None of them have been filed by clients. Not a single one. I've never had a single dispute with a client. Never even touched a single dollar of client money. Never happened. But I've got 30 different complaints floating around out there, which the entire reason for having that many complaints is to confuse and overwhelm me, prevent me from being able to defend against all of them. And if I successfully defend against one, they can say, oh, well, really, we were just prosecuting you on this one, because they're not even identifying these things when they file them. I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. And I hate to use this term, but it goes all the way to the top. Phil Murphy and Matt Platkin are deliberately doing nothing about this. Stuart Rabner, the Chief Justice of the New Jersey Supreme Court, refuses to respond to correspondence when I accuse his subordinates of outright corruption, ignoring the law, ignoring court rules, and basically just doing whatever they want. They don't sign their orders. They won't even sign off on it to take responsibility for it. It's corruption. And we can do something about it. I just, please, share our posts, follow us, spread the word around. We got to do it. It's not going to get done if you don't. You can't rely on them to do it. You can't rely on the Dog and Pony Show to produce a blue ribbon for you. It's not going to happen. These guys are sweeping it under the rug. It's the only thing they're doing there. Well, thank you guys very much for listening tonight. I hope, you'll check in on us and stuff like that. We're going to try to keep doing these posts. It's up to us. They're not going to do it. The system's not going to do it for us. And we need you on this one. So please, reach out, spread the word, get involved. Thank you.